Hello, everybody, and welcome to our back and forth movie review. I'm Gecko Man, the host, and this is our co-host Rogue Gambit with us here.
Hello.
And today we're going to be doing a movie review on Casablanca.
Yes, start out. I just want to say this is my favorite movie of all time, so I might get a little carried away today.
Yes.
Not that I don't usually get carried away, but
Well-
it might be especially noticeable today.
Well, it's just, I've only seen it once, and that was a really great moment. It's a great movie. So we're going to be breaking it down in sections today.
Yeah, so the last time we kind of just walked through No Way Home when we reviewed it. This time we're going to do it a little different. We're still figuring out what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But so this time we're going to break it down into 5 categories.
Or sections.
And then kind of, wrap it all up at the end. The 5 categories are going to be the visuals, the way it's filmed, the set that they chose, the story building through what you see. Then the second part will be the plot/story. Oh, actually, the second part's the soundtrack, but we'll get to that later. So the plot and the story, and just, the way that they build the story through the telling of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll get into the soundtrack, and what we liked about the soundtrack, how it pushed the film, how it impacted the film, how it maybe fell short in areas.
Real fast, as he was saying earlier, it's going to be visuals, soundtrack, then story, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the actors and how they impacted it, the actors that they chose, some very famous actors, some pretty actors you probably haven't heard of unless you watch a lot of older movies.
Yeah. And let it be known that it's a completely different section because it's going to be the actors and not the characters,
Right.
but the actors.
And then finally we'll round it up with the characters, which Casablanca excelled at its characters.
Yes. The reason why we're saving that for last, if you have seen Casablanca and wondering why we're not starting it off,
Right.
it's because it's just so good.
Yeah, I really just wanted to end with it. Like we'll talk. Well, I'm sure we'll get bits and pieces of talking about the characters throughout the other sections, just because like the characters are so important to the movie. But I just wanted to end with it to really like get the heart of the movie at the end. Alrighty, we ready to get into this?
Let's do it. Starting off with visuals.
Yeah, I think it's kind of gonna go with, just because it is my favorite movie. I've seen it far more times than Gecko Man. I'll be doing a lot of the laying it out, what I liked about it, and Gecko Man will kind of give his reactions. If he disagrees with me, we might have a little back and forth discussion, you might say.
Or, I'm just going to be trying to catch up with you and everything.
Possibly. So, starting out with the visuals. So first off, it is, it is an older movie. It was made in 1942.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But for me, when I was first watching it, I was expecting kind of the normal stylus of older movies, like I've seen The Maltese Falcon. I haven't seen
Great
too
movie.
many. But for this type of older movie, I thought the visuals were amazing. Like the shots of the hotel, the shots of just the city of Casablanca itself. A lot of the shots inside the hotel as well. Great.
Yeah. But I was just first want to say, like, since it's an older movie, it is black and white. It is, going to be a little grainier. But I will say that just because back in the day it was shot on actual film, most movies are shot digitally now, it can be enhanced and put on to things like Blu-ray and stuff and made much, much better than like digital copies can nowadays. If a movie is poorly shot nowadays, you're kind of stuck with it looking bad. Can't enhance it much. But because it was shot on film, this was the first time when I showed it to you, that I got to see it on Blu-ray in 4K HD. I have to say it looked fantastic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't compare it to like the old grainy style because you've seen it in the
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen it.
in an
I've
older style of
Yeah,
it.
I've
But
seen it on many different formats. I think I've seen it on three different. I think I've seen it like DVD. I've seen it in the theater, and now I've seen it on 4K.
okay, yeah. So I can't really compare it to the older style very well. But from the perspective of first seeing it, I was thoroughly impressed by like comparing it to like newer movies.
Yeah.
Like it was a very well done movie.
It's actually it's one of my favorite things about older movies. Watching them now is being able to see them in 4K and just like comparing them to modern movies and just being like, wow, this like with the technology they had back then, they were still making just crisp, beautiful pictures.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, going into the actual like filming of it and everything, the sets and all that. I think like it does such a good job of telling the story through the visuals. We'll get into that a little bit more when we get to plot and everything, but just like it sets up, yes, you start with the narration.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of a cheesy, you might say, little like map you see and
But I can
everything.
also see it as a very good misdirection for the movie, but it's still.
And then it brings you into the city, right? It brings you into the city of Casablanca, and it starts building the city up that you're going to see everything take place in, for the most part, besides flashback to Paris. But we don't have to go into that right now. And it builds a city. You see the bustling, the people. You see them, the way they interacted, how the police are dealing. You right away see the police start rounding people up. Right away we see.
Do you want some time to catch your breath because you seem to have that problem as of late?
Sorry, getting a little excited. Yeah, but we just get to see each part of the city. Get to see the skeleton, you might say, of the city built.
Oh yeah,
and then as the movie goes along, it kind of zooms out. You start seeing the muscle, the sinews of the skeleton on top of the skeleton, the heart put in there of the movie, and then we zoom out and we get to see the whole picture later on. But I just think like visually it's really cool how they do that. They show each particular aspect of the plot point, the story, the character, whatever they're building, and they start with the bare bones and they just build on top of it until you get the full picture. Yeah, it just does that through the whole movie.
Yeah, and then once it's built, you just like know exactly where everything is, what's going on,
and it just flows right with the plot, right? As you're seeing more of the city, you're learning more about the city. As you're seeing more of this character, you're learning more about the character, right?
Yeah, like even for our. Well, I don't want to get too much into it because we'll get into characters later on. But for our main character, like,
right, what is the first thing you see? Just his hand moving on a chessboard, know?
Like great starting of a shot for a main character. Like,
a lot of the camera work, I really like. They do. I'll go into the set first. The set, done very well. I really like how they set the city so what's the right word? What am I looking for? Like compact. And so everything feels almost like claustrophobic. And I really like that because these people are all trapped there, right? They're all trying to get, as the narration says at the start, they're all trying to get out of occupied France. They're all trying to get out of German controlled areas into US, into some safe place, somewhere away from the Third Reich. And so I love how the streets are so narrow, how like everything's so crowded. Even Rick's place, it's like so crowded most of the time, shoulder to shoulder, just makes you feel so stuck, trapped.
Yeah. I definitely felt like I was trapped in a small little box.
It does it so quick when it first shots of the city, just so much going on.
Yeah.
Vultures everywhere.
Is there anything else we want to talk about for this segment?
For visuals, let's see. I do want to talk about a lot of the camera work. There's so many shots. This is kind of getting into characters a little bit, but showing characters on different playing. So you have a lot of shots up at Rick, showing him
yes.
whether it's him up on the stairs outside of his office. There's a lot of shots just like showing how Rick is so much above everybody. Like not necessarily, he's a little arrogant, I guess, but like not even like necessarily saying like he's more intelligent or better, but like he just sees himself so separated from everybody.
Oh yeah.
And especially early on in the movie, there's just so many shots of him seeing him like above everybody in a way, and then later on as it goes, like he like comes down to them, right? And then and then by the end of the movie, he's like on the same level with Louis as they begin their beautiful friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, like all those shots are very well done, especially with the the scene where they do the whole duet of the singing,
Or like the duel, yeah.
Yeah, the duel. There we go. It's a song duel. There we go. But yeah, just that shot of them just on the stairs, like that interesting
Such a good
shot.
yeah.
But I also want to say, because sometimes
speaking of that, that's really good. That scene, that shot. Not only right, there's a shot up at Rick and Laszlo, and then Laszlo comes down. But then, right when he asks the band to play the song, they all look at Rick, and we once again get like an upward shot at Rick, where like he has to nod, like he has so much control in his own establishment. Yeah, I love that shot.
It's great. It's great. Going back to what I was saying,
Sorry.
so one of the problems with like older movies can be like in the dark.
Right, especially when they're black and white and like it's a dark movie. Yep.
Yeah. So I felt like the darkness in that movie was very well done.
And they also, I really like their use of light. That's really good point. A lot of there's a whole scene at night, right? When Laszlo is going to the meeting and Ilsa goes to see Rick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the lighting of that scene. Also, the other night scene when Rick is sitting and talking with Sam, and Sam plays, right?
Oh,
and he's just getting drunk, crying about everything. The lighting in both those scenes at night, like you can tell it's night. It's really hard to do that sometimes in black and white movies to make it feel like night. But I feel like they did a really, really good job.
Oh, they did, because I do know like sometimes in black and white movies when it's nighttime, there can be like there could be like darker spots.
Right.
Like, it could be very hard to
really hard to see what's going on, or just as bright as day. It's really hard to like toe that line, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But they do such a good job.
They do an amazing job of it. Like probably the best camera work I've seen in a black and white movie for me.
For sure. I think that kind of wraps it up for visuals.
All right.
Overall, I think, the visuals definitely top tier for a older movie.
Oh yeah.
Top tier. Yeah. All right. Second
thing. Let's move into it.
Soundtrack.
The soundtrack. I kind of forgot about it for a second.
All right. So the soundtrack.
I really fast. I do want to have when I watch a movie, my listening to I'm so focused on the stories and the character that I have a hard time listening to soundtracks. So I may not be able to give my best input on this. So continue.
All right. Well, playing off that, when I watch movies, I'm a very audio learner. I'm very just like audio is very easy for me to take in. So soundtracks not only are easy for me to hear, they're very important to me. And if a soundtrack is bad, I've had movies that I really like be really hard to watch. And older movies, I feel like, do struggle when it comes to soundtracks as well. There's some beautiful soundtracks. I feel like, I like silent movies.
Yeah.
The piano work and the orchestral aspect and the simpleness of those are beautiful. But then I feel like when it got to early film, when we had a lot more of recording, less almost live feel to it, they struggled a little bit. And I feel like in this movie, it was pretty generic when it came to a lot of just the ambient soundtrack that was playing behind, the orchestral crescendos that came up when intense moments happened. It was a pretty normal, generic for that time period of movie. But where it stands above the other movies and where I think it really excelled is, it had Sam. this piano player in a saloon that is and the live band in the saloon. And when they did, you have, of course, as time goes by, as everybody knows, but you also have Knock on Wood. Love that. Oh, it's the first time you hear Sam actually like singing with the people there when he plays Knock on Wood. Love that song. Love just like the way it brings, just shows Rick's, right? Rick's is a place where everybody comes together. All these people who are almost competing with each other to get out of Casablanca are all coming together and just like, having a moment, having a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a collective, like, I can't think of it. I can't think of a word
there. I definitely know what you're talking about, but having a congregation.
I don't know. Well, yeah. So, they just all come together and just like in one voice, just like singing the song, just like shows you what Rick's is, right?
Yeah.
And then it all kind of comes to a head right at the scene you were talking about, the dueling.
Oh yeah,
where you have Germans singing they're
dueling by singing both their anthms.
Right. You have Les Marseilles by the French versus
I'll never be able to pronounce that.
versus the Die Volk on Rhine, which is I'm guessing the Third Reich's national anthem.
Yeah.
And just like once again you see like the people of Casablanca, just like their heart and soul just like pouring out.
Oh yeah.
And then you have I just feel like at those those aspects where it's even the solo by the guitar lady.
Oh yes,
the like operatic guitar lady. Such a great just like slow moment to the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like there's so many aspects out where they took a pretty generic soundtrack, but then just took it a step above with all those moments of bringing everyone together through these songs and showing the divide between the Germans and the French, the Italians, and everybody else trying to get out of occupied territories.
Yeah, definitely. It also does seem to do a very good job with the soundtrack and the camera work as well.
Yes,
like we see in the whole dueling, if Laszlo's down there singing with them, it kind of gets that shot out, and then we see other people kind of singing, and then we get the shots of them, and then we kind of see everybody get into the shot.
It's I really like the camera work in that scene where it sets up like it's almost like a battle scene, right?
Yeah.
It sets up, all right, you have these people over here, the Germans, they start singing. This is your one side. Then we show Laszlo, right? And he makes the decision to join the battle. He goes down, talks to these people. Then they show the Germans again. Rick says, all right, we can play this song. Then you see him start singing, right?
Yeah.
And then it shows him and the Germans, him and the Germans, right? You're seeing both sides, and it builds up this battle. Then everybody joins in on his side.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It just builds and builds and builds, and then culminates.
A definitely good job in soundtrack and camera work. It was a very good combination, I would say.
For sure.
In other scenes, I don't remember very well about the whole camera work and soundtrack for the guitar lady.
I mean, yeah, it did do a very popular, like, really close up of her a couple of times. That was about the only like extra camera work that it threw in there. Was very much like the I'm not a expert on names of camera shots or whatever, but it was very popular in that time to have that where you see the character and it's like almost like up at the face, but a pretty close up shot on her face. And that was only really like camera work with that. Moving on to the end, I guess, is the other time that I feel like the soundtrack really shines. That final airport scene.
Oh, yes.
It does do such a good job of building the tension.
I think in the ending for movies for me is when I can really hear the soundtrack, because it's supposed to be this final battle of our hero. And it's like, okay, so we need to have some music in this.
Right. And so I feel like it does a really good job of bringing that all together. Yeah. Builds the tension when it needs to. It rises to the occasion when it needs to, and then it's nice and slow and
Yeah, definitely.
just I don't. It played along with all your emotions, all the intensity, all the uh, culmination of this whole story that you've been unfolding so well. You even had like Rick's little theme in there as they walk away. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something I want to say, but I'm going to save it for characters.
All right. Well, moving into the plot and story. What are your thoughts on? So I want to hear, since you've only seen this once, just like going with the story itself. What do you think of the way they told the story? What do you think of like just the story? Yeah.
Well, so the way they tell it is you're a little confused at the beginning because
Right.
you're like you don't know really what's going on. You don't really know, like, okay, so we all we know is there's Casablanca, there is a city with people in it trying to get out of a war.
Right.
Other than that, we don't really know what else other
What's
than
going on?
Yeah. And I think they do a really good job with that, all the way through you're going through, but they still hid stuff very well in it. Like, it was great. It was great. I think I loved the scene, the scene in the whole storytelling. I loved the part when they're in the hotel for the final time. When they're all together, Laszlo, Rick, and the other Louis, and yeah, those three.
The time when are you saying the time when everybody's like when Rick's is open, everybody's in there, or is it the time when Rick comes in with the cut on his arm and he's talking and Ilsa's being snuck out the back?
Yeah,
or is it the time when Louis arrests him and seemingly arrests him and they go to the airport?
Louis arrests him.
Okay,
the very final time you see
gotcha.
Rick's. I thought that was a really good like storytelling. There was so much happening in that scene because there was like
right. That's when you're figuring out that Rick's
is,
and you're like, is Rick gonna who's gonna be on the plane?
Exactly.
Like, what did he decide?
Yeah, and then even at the airport, like there was still that like they've held they hidden stuff very well in that.
Yeah,
like I loved it.
It's like, that goes really well into like how I was gonna lay this out, I guess. I love how it's starts.
If you want to know all, he's holding a book right now.
I have a lot of stuff written about the plot, so I don't want to forget anything. I love how it, just like I said with like the camera work, it starts small and just grows and grows, right? Like you said, you just like, okay, we're following this guy in Casablanca, right? Just people trying to get out. We don't really know what's going on. We're learning more about the city, right?
Yeah.
It's really just small story. All right, now we learn about these papers that get stolen, right? All right, I guess apparently this is a story about papers that got stolen. All right, then we meet Rick. Well, all right, now we're following Rick, who has the papers now, right? After Peter Lorre's character gives them to him. And that's what we think we're following, right? But then this becomes bigger, right? All right, now there's this guy named Laszlo that's coming, and he wants these papers, these writ of transit.
Yeah.
He wants them. It gets a little bigger. Now the police are involved, right? They're trying to find this murderer, but they're also going to stop Laszlo. All right, now it's going to get bigger. Now the Germans are here. Germans are like, no, Laszlo's not getting out, right? All right, then what does it do? It grows bigger as we now suddenly our character's tied to Laszlo through Ilsa, right? Our main character we've been watching is now tied, and he's in the middle of this, right? And then it grows bigger as it's not just Laszlo trying to get out. It's this character, Laszlo, who is so important to the underground, to the battle against the Germans. And now it's the Germans versus the rest of the world. The Germans trying to stop the one person they need to stop from getting out of Casablanca, and our main character with all the power, right?
Yeah.
And just the way it just shows you all the little parts to this story, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows until it's this huge, this like war-changing event that could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So two things about the whole story about this.
But it's still just a simple little story about Rick.
Yeah, it's great. So two things about the story. Number one, when Rick has the papers, for me personally, I was so tense. Like I
Yeah.
was like, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna give it to
Okay,
the,
little plot detail that you notice that it happens. Of course, they show you it happening, but you don't realize how important it is until maybe the second or third time watching the movie. But the little plot detail of him choosing to put the papers in the piano, because that piano isn't just like a part of Rick's. It's like a main part of Rick's that we see in almost every shot going forward, right?
yeah, I was
And so you know that the papers are they're in the room all the time with people going around. It's just like builds so much tension.
Oh, yeah.
And like you forget about the papers every once in a while when they're talking about another aspect of the plot, but then you see the piano and you're just like, oh my goodness, they're right there.
It's definitely more tense when the Germans were standing at the piano.
Yep.
They're like, you're like, oh no, they're gonna find it, or they have found it, or what's going on. Yeah, like it was tense throughout the entire movie.
So yeah, it's just like those little parts that are so important that I love the storytelling of it, because each little thing just like builds on another little thing and builds on another little thing. It's not trying to tell this grandiose story. It just tells all these little stories that all culminate in a really, really big, important story.
Yeah, definitely on that. But there's also something else I want to say about the story. The fact is, there's also some, if you like listen carefully and you like watch the background people and stuff, you can actually tell there's actually other smaller stories going through.
We have the story of the underground in Casablanca that we meet this character. He's when we first meet him, he's somebody that just hangs around. Some people in Casablanca know who he is, right? Then he's meets with Laszlo when he first comes, shows him the ring, right? And it's like, all right. And then we find out that's when we find out he's leading the underground, and he ends up becoming a little bit bigger role later on. We have our little Yvonne, right? Where were you last night, Rick? I don't remember that long ago. What are you going to be there tonight, Rick? I don't plan that far ahead, Yeah. And she's just like this little character. She's just like one of those people stuck in Casablanca, right? And she just is, living her life. You've got the manager guy. What's the name?
I forget.
Anyways, we don't want to get into characters that much. But you've got all these little stories of all these characters. Yeah, that just the couple that we meet. That was
what
watch. 10 watch. Very much watch. Just all these people trying to get out of Casablanca and all their stories.
I think they do a good job, like, because you go when you first see Rick's, you see all these different people, and you're wondering, like, you're like, okay, they're just showing us like, the surrounding of Rick's and stuff. But you also, if you listen, you also hear like there's another story, there's other stories going on. It's like, whoa, this world is actually built very well.
Yeah.
So very, very good.
And then moving on with the plot, I guess, and storytelling aspects, the way it tells even like the final story, the final moment, the final act, we'll say, third act, right? The third act when everything's coming together, like you said, it still holds all those little things back. It's not just gonna dump it all on you and let everything play out, which it could have done because it was telling a little bit of like a romance story, right? It could have dumped out all these plots. You knew what was gonna happen. But no, it held everything back, and so even when it comes that like final moment, you're still almost a little surprised when he says, "Put down the names of Ilsa and Laszlo."
Yeah. So you know what? Since you said that, I'll say what I've been wanting to say since we started talking about soundtrack and stuff during the entire like movie. You're never really sure like what Rick's gonna do. Like even at the final moment at the airport, you don't know if he's just gonna be like, "Sorry, Laszlo," and just be like,
exactly. They build his character so well. We're gonna get into that in character a lot. But they do such a good job in the way they tell the story that they have this character that they can do that with, and they just play it so well where you're very intrigued by him. And at the same time, you're trying to figure him out, but you never quite can,
Yeah, and I think it does. I think it does the story justice. Like it helps the story so much that he's like this, and like You never know what he's going to do. It's great. I love it. I love those kind of stories where you don't know where your main character is going to do.
Yeah. I just to like kind of wrap up the, unless there's something else you want to say.
No,
I just, yeah, like the way that it starts so small and ends so important, so big. It's just beautiful storytelling. Just some, in my opinion, the best storytelling ever told on the movie screen.
Yeah, and it doesn't need all this flashy stuff.
Right.
And it's like, it's got to be the best black and white movie that I have seen so far. And it's like, if I had to rate my black and white movies that I've seen, it's Casablanca first.
Yeah, for sure.
Such a great storytelling.
All right, moving on to the actors. I know you haven't seen many black and white movies. You probably don't know many of these actors, but I'll talk about, the ones and who they're playing, and you can, give your judgment on if you thought the actor did a good job and whatnot.
Horrible job on all of them. No.
So we'll start. We'll start with the main. I couldn't decide if I want to go from the lesser known little guys up to the main characters.
Are we doing every single guy?
Every single actor we're going to go into. The extras in the back, we're going to talk about. No, I'll just go to like 10 or so.
I mean, yeah, just go and we'll...
All right, so Humphrey Bogart plays Rick.
Does he play in the Maltese Falcon?
Yeah, he plays...
Yeah. I was
Sid? I don't remember.
I forget his name. But
Slade.
It's Slade. Yeah. We're getting into this. Well, when I saw him in the Maltese Falcon, I thought he was a great actor in that.
Yep.
Like, he did a very good job of you don't know who he is or what it is. Like, he did a very good job as... He did an amazing job as Rick. I think he does better as Rick than he did as Slade, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because... yeah, like Rick is this guy who's owned a casino, and it's like, oh, well, I absolutely enjoyed him as an actor. Like,
yeah,
I want to see more movies with him in. Like,
yeah, Humphrey Bogart is one of my favorite actors of all time. I've seen a lot of his movies. I don't know if I've seen one where I've been like, okay, he kind of dropped the ball on that character or whatnot. I feel like he always just brings his characters to life so well, and I've seen him play in many, many roles whether it's the Maltese Falcon, detective who's kind of suave but but definitely a little gritty, or it's the Admiral in Caine Mutiny, right? Where he's this old, just beat down, like his way is the only way guy, or whether it's in Treasure of the Sierra Madre, where he plays this like villainous role. Ooh. Just all of them, he does such a good job. And then in Casablanca, he's playing a very complex character, and just he was the right choice. He looks the part, he acts the part. He is just absolutely superb at bringing Rick to life.
Oh yeah. Like, because when you see him as Rick, for me personally, I've always felt like, man, he is. It's just like this character is actually there, and it's like,
I can't separate them. It's so hard to. It's like a modern like the modern like Tony Stark, being played by Robert Downey Jr. Like, you can't really separate them.
Yeah,
and it's the same way where it's like. And that's why I think he's such a good actor. He has so many characters that are that way. Like, you just can't separate. He embodies his character so well, and he no slouch in this one.
Yeah, like if you just want to know what a good actor is, you just gotta
just watch him. Any of his movies. Moving on, Ingrid Bergman playing Ilsa Lund.
Ah, yes. My memory's a little spotty on her, but what I do remember is mainly the scene where when she's in his office and
giving her last ditch efforts.
Yeah. I thought she did a pretty good job. I thought she did a really good job.
She does. She once again has to play a pretty complex character.
Yeah.
Or at least a character with a very complex character arc, right? If you go chronologically, right? Chronologically, and time, not in the way you see the movie, but in time, right? She plays this character who, at a very young age, meets Victor Laszlo, a very important, hot-headed, you might say, revolutionary who she falls in love with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ends up marrying. Then her husband gets taken off to a concentration camp and she thinks killed. In her, what's the word? Mourning, right? She's mourning his death. She meets Rick. She falls in love with Rick, right?
Yeah.
And now she in her head, right? You're coming out of this mourning, right? You're okay. We're getting way too into characters here.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying she has a very complex character arc
Yeah, she definitely
where she just plays every aspect of that character so well. She brings across the youngness,
Oh,
the
yeah.
youth, the energy, but she also brings across that like mourn, sad part from the war, from her husband's death. And then when it comes to like all these massively big decisions she has to make at the end, like she just brings that out into just the turmoil that's going on inside of her. And yeah, I believe she brings the character to life very well. Just a little interesting tidbit. Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart did not like each other at all.
Really?
And so a lot of their scenes were shot completely separate because they hated interacting with each other.
That's
Very,
interesting.
very interesting. Moving
Makes you
on,
kind of appreciate all the shots and everything.
Yes,
even
for
more
sure.
because they were still good.
Moving on to Claude Reigns. He plays Louis. What did you think of his acting job, Captain Louis?
Captain Louis. Oh, I actually really enjoyed him as a character. Like I enjoyed his character a lot, and I thought he did a really good job. Like, I don't know what else he plays in.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a whole lot of things. I mean, I think his next biggest role would be Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, probably. And I've seen him in that, but that might be the only thing. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, he's a very famous actor, of course, but he brings Louis. I love Louis's character, one of my favorites, and he just brings him to life so well. Does such a good job with, what's the right word? Like playing on like the lighthearted but serious. Like he's like his character, right, is very like he's lighthearted. I should say he's lighthearted in very serious situations.
Yeah,
and he just like toes that line so well with like he keeps things light without it being over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just feel like he does a great job with that. Yeah, just fabulous job. Then Laszlo, played by Paul Heinrich or whatever.
Well, first off, let me say this. I thought Laszlo was a great character. Again, like almost all the characters for me are great. But going off of Laszlo, I thought he was a great character. His acting job was really good as Laszlo. I have this feeling I've seen him before.
Yeah, I kind of had the same feeling. I don't know that I've ever seen him in anything else. But yes, I feel like he was less of a known act. Like there's some really big name actors in there, of course, that we've already mentioned and will mention, but like he wasn't really one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so, but I feel like he did a really good job. He doesn't have nearly as, I don't know, tough of a character to act. Like he's very one dimensional, right?
Yeah,
he just is a important revolutionary that's running away, right? Like he has his motivations, of course, but he's not nearly as deep of a character. But I feel like he does get portrayed very well by Paul Heinrich.
Oh yes. Like when he first steps in, is it bad that I knew that was going to be Laszlo?
No, like I feel like you're supposed to. Like he commands respect, right? Like
yeah,
he's somebody that everybody respects. The Germans respect him for the fact that he's run circles around them. The French respect him because he's that beacon of hope, right? And just his story kind of culminates in that little dueling
Yeah, what was
scene
like
where he just
definitely
commands so much space. He's just played so well.
He definitely did a very good job as him. Like when like I said, when he first stepped on screen, I thought he portrayed his character very well. But like you said, he is a not as complex as the other characters we've talked about.
Moving on to Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre,
Yes,
is
he's one of the biggest names names in the film. Of course, he's played so many roles. He plays the guy who steals the papers and gives them to Rick, and ends up getting
yes.
captured.
I think I watched the. Isn't he in The Man Who Knew Too Much?
Yes, well, the original,
Yeah, the original. And I think I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
And I don't remember much from that movie. Like I can barely remember it. But from what I do remember is just him. And I think he is, so he played his role very, very well.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but for him, but every time he is on screen, I'm always like, I know who that is.
Yeah, he's an insanely famous actor. He's played so many roles. Such a good actor. He just has, he has one of those. He did get a little typecast just because like he just so good at portraying that just like slimy but he does such a good job of giving it nuance. He could play the kind of more suave, slimy guy, but he can also play the very villainous, like just pure evil, as he does in The Man Who Knew Too Much. And he plays villains so well. He plays heroes so well. He plays, and then this, he just does a really good job of portraying this character who is despised. And just really does I feel like his character does such a good job of. Okay, we're not getting into characters. I will talk about that later. But yeah, he does an incredible job of portraying his character, who, though he has a smaller role, is so important.
Yeah. And even that small role, like even because by the end of the movie, I was thinking about it and I was like, man, I can't believe how this all started with Rick meeting this guy.
That's what I was saying about like the storytelling, right? There's all just these little tiny things.
Yeah.
That just compounded into this massive story.
Yeah. And even a face, because you can forget like characters in a movie. But for an actor to bring like a small character like that and actually remember him, not just because of story, but just because of the type of
acting job. I mean, like that's why I think it was such a good choice to also pick somebody who's so well known. I mean, when this came out, he wasn't. Well, I mean, he had already done The Man Who Knew Too Much. He had done some big things. Like he was just like picking such an. It's so hard for me to say iconic because like he's iconic now. 70 years later, right? Was he as iconic then? I don't know his story that well, but just like more of a well-known for sure than these other actors in such a small role, like I think really did help the story in that way that you would remember it. All right, moving on to Dooley Wilson, plays Sam.
Oh yes.
Oh my goodness. I don't want to get into his character so much, but I think he does such a good job.
He does. I was not expecting him to have like the big role that he had. Like, and when he did, I just absolutely loved it. I loved it every single time he was on screen. Like,
yeah, and I think like picking somebody who could sing too, was such a smart choice. Where he was able to just bring this, just piano player. What are they called when they piano play in a bar? Anyways, bringing like that character to life so well, just brought the energy, and then he also just does such a good job of playing like the friend to Rick. Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah, and even the whole flashback scene.
Yes, we get to see it, younger version. So good. Alrighty, moving on. I just got a couple more I want to hit on that I just think do a really good job of bringing their characters to life. We got Sydney Greenstreet. Sydney Greenstreet plays the owner of the Blue Parrot.
Ah, yes. I've seen him. He's in the Maltese Falcon.
He's in Maltese Falcon. He's in Across the Pacific.
And he didn't play in that he wasn't in a whole lot of movies.
Yeah, he didn't start acting apparently until he was like in his 60s. So he's not in a lot of movies, but he's very well known nowadays just because he does such a good job.
Yeah, and for someone to be like starting in his 60s and going into the amount of movies that he was in and be so well known and be like, man, he is good. Like,
Yeah, he does an incredible job. And once again, he's another one that plays a more of a small character, but ends up being a very important character. I think he just portrays that, you know, I guess like neutral character. Like he doesn't really have a side. He's just trying to make money where he can make money. You know,
he's just wanting to get ricks.
Yeah, he's really just trying to make money, right?
Yeah.
He rules the black market because he's the biggest guy in town, literally.
He's like the
But yeah, he's the big fish. He's the
kingpin.
The big cheese. He's the kingpin. The whole enchilada.
What is with you at big?
Sorry. But yeah, he just does such a good job of playing this character who doesn't. He literally he's like who Rick thinks he is, you know, in a little way. Like he's so neutral. He doesn't want to pick a side, right?
Yeah.
Whereas yes, but their motivations are so different, right? Like we're not going to get into characters too much, but their motivations are so different, and he just does a really good job of playing that very neutral character. And then finally, I want to bring up S.Z. Sakal, who plays the manager of it. Carl is his name. Just because, yes, everybody does such a good job of playing their character, but he has just this, he's just supposed to be this kind, just like genuine guy. Mm-hmm. Such a good choice for that type of character, and he does such a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you want to go into specifics there before we move on?
Well, yeah, it's like you said, like you've been saying for all these characters, just another. It's a role. It's his role looked so small, but then it grew.
Yeah, he was very important.
Yeah, there's not too much I want to go into characters because we still have. There's not too much I want to go into for his acting,
right?
Because we're starting to run a little low on time here.
Oh, who said there's any time limit? We could be here for hours,
days,
months.
You're supposed to say weeks.
My bad. All right. Moving on. I'll just wrap up characters by saying this, or actors. Sorry.
I know it's so difficult to like
distinguish them. Yeah. I think that it's one of the best, just like so many good choices for actors, you know, and some of them, like I said, were really well known, great actors who were picked for that specific role. Others were way less known, but they all just do such a good job of bringing, you know, the guy behind the bar. I'm blanking on his name, but he does such a good job. Then the lady Yvonne, right? She does such a good job. The lady who plays the guitar. They all just did such a good job. Were such good choices. Just bring these characters that we're about to get into life. And so let's move on to those characters that they brought to life. Love that segue, you know. All right. And we will start small this time and move big. And we're going to start with who we just ended with, and that is Carl. Ooh, Carl's character just kind of embodies, like we were saying with Peter Lorre's character. I'm completely blanking on his character's name, but Peter Lorre's character, just these small characters that just have such an impact on everything, right?
Oh yeah,
just like these simple stories of, you know, Carl, just this restaurant manager that just wants to do the right thing, wants Rick to do the right thing, just gets so excited at the little things, you know?
Yeah. And it like, it's probably why he's such a nice guy, but like he even does such a good job, like, because when you I think the first time you see him is when he runs into that vulture guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Vultures
I just
everywhere.
want to say this is going on to actors as well as characters. Even their small movements portray their characters
Right.
very well.
And like he does, yeah, like he all these little characters like portray Casablanca too, right? Let's
Yeah.
go move like even the pickpocket, right? He's one of the first characters that we meet, and we actually like get to hear talk, get to hear like interact, and we just see this random guy in Casablanca that just plays off of you, right?
Yeah.
Sees who you are, picks his mark, talks you up, sees you're just this innocent guy, and is willing to take advantage of you for
Oh,
that,
good.
right? And then he runs into this guy Carl, right?
Uh-huh.
But like Carl embodies the other side of Casablanca, the not not the new guys in Casablanca, but the people who have been there for so long that he knows exactly who this guy is, right? Right when he bumps into him, the first thing he does is he checks his pockets because he knows exactly who he is. And that just shows the two like sides of Casablanca. You got the just pure like good Carl, and then like the guy who's willing to take advantage of you in this pickpocket.
Yeah,
And then,
and it even builds the world that this movie is taking place.
Exactly.
Like you were saying, a guy who's lived in Casablanca for a long time, and a guy and kind of a newer guy who came to Casablanca.
Exactly.
So it just builds it very well.
And we got, all these other little stories with, like I said, Yvonne, the guy behind the bar, the young couple that's trying to get to America that Rick ends up helping,
Yeah.
We just all these little stories, all these characters that you could just, they do such a good job of building these characters. You could just get behind them so easily, right? Like, because it's telling this simple story, like people trying to get out of occupied France.
Yeah.
Or I mean, occupied Third Reich territory, German controlled territories, right? So it's so easy to get behind every little aspect because they're just trying to get out of here, right?
Yeah.
And so you can have these small characters that you just feel for when things go their way, when things don't go their way.
Let's bring it back to Carl.
Oh, back to Carl, sure thing.
Because we're starting to get really off track here, talking about.
Or just talk about characters. Is there something else you want to say about Carl?
Well, so like the last scene was also very good with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last scene was in the hotel, right? When
In Rick's
like
Sun Hotel.
that's right.
In the saloon.
In the saloon.
Casino.
Casino, yeah. He's like take her home,
right,
and all that.
Right.
And so
just,
good.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's just another thing that like shows like who he is, right? He's a good guy, good enough guy, good, like he's just like so pure good that like Rick's willing to entrust him with Ilsa, and then he's also just knows Casablanca so well. Rick knows that he's somebody who can get her home safe without the police seeing her after curfew, without vultures getting to her, right?
As well as the time we see him and Laszlo together outside running to the saloon. Just great to see them interact that way.
I mean, like that's just another part that like shows how like the whole plot of the movie talking about just the little things mattering so much, where like he's just this guy who works at Rick's, that he's part of the underground, but you don't know how important he is, but then like you see like he's the one who ends up saving Laszlo, right? Like this meeting gets broken up by the police, but Laszlo's not caught because Carl's able to get him out of there, get him to somewhere safe. Moving on to I mean, we're kind of just talking about all little characters in that, but moving on to maybe a little bigger character, we can move on to Peter Lorre's character, right?
Yes.
Talk about him. So he, so it sounded like you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Do we have we figured out his name yet?
I mean, we can do that real quick here. It starts with the U.
Ugart.
Yes. Ugarte. That's Ugarte.
Yeah. He when he like first walks in, like he has this like stance that like makes he's this character who's gonna be like who has something important, or like just
like he Peter Lorre just does such a good job of playing that like nervousness too he has, where you see him, he's important, he's not necessarily good, right? Like he definitely is a little shifty, and then like the way Rick interacts with him right away, right? You know that like Rick doesn't trust this guy, right?
Yeah.
And then you find out, oh wow, he's important. He has these letters of transit that people are trying to get their hands on, right? And then like just like his interaction with Rick, he's this character that like knows who knows who he is. And then it's just like how people are so vulnerable with Rick. We're not really talking about Rick, but like he shows that aspect so early, like how people are willing to trust Rick. They know that Rick, they know who Rick is and the way he's going to act. And so like he's like this, like, he's like the rock of Casablanca, right? Like Rick is so steadfast. Like everybody in Casablanca knows Rick's somebody you can trust. He's the one that people tell, you know, go talk to Rick about that, right? And Ugarte just does such a good job of portraying that in the way he interacts with Rick, right? He's willing to tell Rick, like, I know you don't like me, you despise me. Like, I hope you despise me. And Rick, you know, I don't, if I gave you any thought, I would, you know, like he just portrays that so well, and then like brings out the letters of transit, shows how important he is. I hope, you know, hope you're more what does he say? I hope you're more impressed with me now, right? Like he's actually done something, and then we see him, and then though his story's short lived, right? He's just still so impactful because what he's left is going to
start this whole chain of events.
Everything, yep. And so we can move on from him, I guess, to bigger Major Strasser, kind of like the villain of the whole thing.
The Major, I'm trying to remember.
Major Strasser, so he's like the main German guy, right?
Oh yeah. I liked how he was in the, like when he comes in, he's like always wanting to be like, get these people, we need to arrest these people, you know, he's always wanting to like do stuff.
Yeah, like he is important, he shows it, and he like commands fear, right? Like he's you know depicting Germany, right? And just like the amount of power and control that they have everywhere at that time. And he does do such a good job of portraying that, but also being kind of one of the people, you know, like he still like sits down and talks with Rick, and like I love once again, I loves Rick's interaction with everybody, but like his interaction with Rick, where he is like learning about Rick, showing Rick, you know, we have all this information on you, and just trying to like get into Rick's head a little bit. Such a good scene.
Yeah, and I also like how when he's talking to the police guy, Louis, yeah. I like how he's telling him like, we need to be sure Laszlo can't get out of here. We need to like get Laszlo stuck and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so good.
He does, once again, he just depicts Germany so well, where he's like willing
Germany, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, I was stuck with saying Germans in Germany, but I mean he's depicting like the Third Reich, we'll go with, so well, where like they're willing to do anything to further their cause, right? Yeah, they're willing to do anything to capture Laszlo, to kill Laszlo, to get him in a concentration camp again. Moving on to Louis. I mean, we might be going a little fast to get to such a big character already, but
yeah, we are.
Let's talk about him, because I have a lot to say about him. He is one of my favorite characters.
He's a great character. I loved him.
He's the type of man,
like his interactions with everybody, like you said, he's so lighthearted, and
even like like you were saying, his interaction with Strasser, right? Like
he's so great.
He's like, oh man, I'm trying to remember his line. I love it when Strasser, he knows like he has enough power here, right, that he doesn't have to do everything Strasser says, but he also needs to keep Strasser happy so that he doesn't want to be shipped off to a concentration camp, right?
Yeah.
And so he just plays that line so well, where you're just like, it's funny, but you're also a little nervous for him, and yeah.
And I like how he is with Rick. You know, going to Rick again, like especially when Rick helps that couple, and he's like, he says why do I have the feeling you helped them or something?
Yeah, well, he says what he says is like something along the lines of like, because he was trying to, of course, play them for the woman, right? And he's like, "Why would you take that away from me?" Basically, to Rick, are you getting a little bit soft-hearted?
Oh, yes, yes, so good. Like I love it, especially at the end. Like he still has a bit of like lighthearted. He's
Yep,
still
yep.
lighthearted. Like
Even when like Rick just played him, he like thinks he tried to do the one thing to like save his own skin, right? Because like he says, he just goes where the wind blows, right? And the wind
Yeah.
was blowing from the Third Reich, right? So he tries to do what he thinks will get him ahead, and even though he kind of loses, and then at the end he's just just going with Rick now, right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
prevailing wind was blowing from Rick, so he was starting a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else you want to say about this character?
Oh yeah,
Or-
so that Louis, yeah, I love how he's so on the fence, it just kind of goes with whoever is,
oh yeah,
so willing to take his winnings and then close down the casino for gambling,
oh yeah.
just like he's such a fantastic character.
Yeah, just doesn't he close down the gambling and then they're like, "You're winning."
Yes,
And
winning,
he's
sir.
like-
Thank you. Your winnings from the day. Yep. I'm shocked to find out gambling's going on here. Here are your winnings, sir. Yeah. And then just like the way, he plays that so well. And then like, even like it goes down to like the way he warns Rick about the
Oh yeah, yeah.
we'll be there searching your hotel tonight or your
Yeah.
saloon tonight.
Also his interaction with Laszlo and what's her name?
Ilsa.
Elsa. Yeah, just still very good. He like talks to almost every character to be a character in that.
yeah.
Like, I
And
don't know
of course
if you
he
ever
has the
thought-
best line in the whole movie.
What line?
Rick is the type of man that if I were a woman and I wasn't around, I'd be in love with him.
So good.
He had so many good lines.
Was he talking to Laszlo or?
Yeah. Yeah. He was talking to Laszlo.
I don't know if he was talking to Laszlo or the German guy.
No, he was talking to Laszlo.
Okay. Yeah.
What type of man is this, Rick? Yeah. Moving on to Laszlo then.
Yeah. Good character.
Yeah. Like he's such a, as I said before, like pretty one-dimensional character.
Yeah,
Right?
he's
He's just
but
good.
But he's a good one-dimensional character. Like,
he definitely has depth still. He is this character that is just trying to help the little guy, right?
yeah.
He thinks what the Germans are doing is wrong, and he thinks that he can help save France, and so he's trying to.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the way he can do that is by getting out of Casablanca. So like he just has this one goal of getting out with Ilsa, and
yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about Laszlo because again, he's a one-dimensional character. Definitely, but he definitely has the purpose needed for the story to.
right, yeah,
It's
he's
great.
like the way you learn so much about him before you even meet him, and then when you
Yeah.
meet him, like you said, you knew who he was, right?
Yeah. Just the way everybody was talking about him
Yep.
and stuff and being like, oh, he's like this important guy. Like,
Right.
there were a couple times where I was like, is this him or is this him?
Right.
And then, but then once he got on scene, he's just standing the way he's standing, the way
Right,
he's
yep.
like just looking around, walking around. It's great.
Yeah.
Um,
He just, he it's like you said, like so important. He was talked up so much, and then like he didn't disappoint, even though he was just kind of like a simple guy. Like he wasn't prideful about it or anything.
oh yeah.
He's just very simple, just went about his business. Yeah. Let's move on to Sam.
Sam. Good old
Before we get
Sam.
into the main characters, Sam. I once again love this character. Sam is so good. Like I said before, great choice, but at the same time, like his character, the way he is so much to Rick, like he's such a good friend to Rick. He's so important to Rick's, like he is like the heart and soul of Rick's, like his piano is. And like Rick trusts him so fully, right? Like
Yeah.
he shows him the letters of transit basically and puts them in his piano where he could easily like do something. But like he is so trustworthy, so
and so loyal. Yeah,
There you
loyal.
go, yeah.
And like, especially in the flashback, he still had he seemed to have that loyalty all the way back when they were outside of, I forget where they exactly were. Paris. Yeah, and like he has that loyalty, and you can tell like, wow, these two are like so close because they were in Paris together, they left together, they came to Casablanca together, and basically together they started this.
Yep. And yeah, you don't necessarily, they're business partners of sorts.
Yeah.
But you don't know exactly why they're such good friends, but you just like know they are, and his character, just like how much he cares for Rick, and like you see that in like his, like he's like the bro, like his first interactions with Elsa, like you could tell he's like, you broke my best friend's heart, like I don't know, like
yeah. And it even shows even
let's get out of here, Rick.
Even when Rick is
she's no good for you.
Like, so two points I want to mention for this character is when Rick's like so upset when he first met. I keep forgetting
Ilsa. First saw her again.
Ilsa. I keep wanting to say Elsa. Ilsa. He's like, let's go on the town. Go on the town. Drink.
Yeah. Get you out of here. She's bad luck to you. Yeah. Just like wants to help.
To show like that friendship between these two characters. Like I'm kind of going into Rick now, but
that's good.
When he's selling the canteen.
Yep.
To Carl, he's like, not Carl, Dagnat. Ferrari, that's right. Why? Well, man, why do? Yeah, just it's when he's selling, like he's like, and be sure Sam gets this much,
25%,
25%, and then he's like,
I know you only pay him 10%.
He's like, it's great. Like it still shows that Sam is such a good friend, and Rick is also a good friend.
He's willing to give him just like when he, like, let's ask Sam, and Sam's just like, I don't have enough time to spend what I make already, Oh my gosh, they're best friends.
Embodies this character so well. Like we said before, each of these each of the actors embody the characters so well.
Moving on to Ilsa then.
Yeah.
As we get into our big two.
So for me, a lot of times when a female character in a black and white movie show up, kind of terrifies me because it can be kind of difficult for me to accept these characters.
Yeah, a lot of times, female characters are very, very one-dimensional in older movies.
But like she was very well done.
Yeah, so I guess I'll get into what I was saying earlier with her. She has such a complex story, right?
Yeah.
As I said before, young, meets Laszlo, falls in love, married. Laszlo supposed to be dead. She's mourning, meets Rick, falls in love, thinks her life's turned, like she like thinks, oh wow, now I finally, like, this is gonna be better this time, right?
Yeah.
And then she gets the news Laszlo's actually alive. Right at the exact same time that her beloved Paris is being invaded by Germans and being occupied. They're coming in that day, and so she has to make a choice what to do. And she makes the right choice in choosing her husband, and she thinks she's made the right choice, even though she's living on the run. She's with the man that she married, trying to run away. And then, we don't know a lot about that time, but we hear a little bit in their conversations, even when she was sick, Laszlo didn't leave her. When they were, she knew like how much he meant to her, she meant to him, how much he meant to the resistance. And she is in a way like his heart and soul, and plays that well. Then we see her once again meets up with Rick, right? And like her whole world is like turned on its head again, right? And that's what I was trying to say before. Like she has such a complex story.
Oh yeah,
and
this is sorry, I didn't
Go ahead.
just the thing is ever since when you every time you mention complex character, I always think of how they Humphrey Bogart and whatever her name playing Ilsa
Oh, Ingrid Bergman.
Bergman, yeah, playing as a younger version of their characters to an older version of
Yeah.
their characters.
Yeah.
So good.
They play both the lightheartedness, the
Yeah.
tension, they play all of it so well.
And Ilsa as a character through the entire movie, amazing. And how she is like in the final moments, she's willing to like be like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, she admits when like, all right, she's been through enough.
Yeah,
she can't just she needs someone else to do the thinking for her, you know, as she says, because she's had a very, very difficult time.
Yeah.
And she knows what the right choice is, but she doesn't know if she can make it again, right?
Yeah.
And then when Rick makes it for her, it's even hard to leave again.
Yeah, and it's even hard to accept the fact that because when she says, "I can't make the choice. I can't make the choice anymore," but when she hears the choice being made, that's been
Still
made,
hurts.
still hurts. It's still like, oh, I don't even know if I want to do this now. I want to stay. But
that's her character. I'm trying to think like.
there's
a few other her interaction with Sam's really fun. Like,
oh yes, play
it, Sam. Play.
I forget the name of the song.
As time goes by.
As time goes by.
It's I love that. Like, I don't think I can. I don't think I can remember it. I'll hum it for you. You know. Oh my gosh, such good interaction with the two of them. But yeah, getting into Rick. Rick Blaine.
An amazing character.
Greatest character ever.
Like I said before, when you first see him and you go through the entire movie and you see him by the end, you're like, what is this character doing? Like, what is he planning? Is he going to give the papers to Laszlo? Is he going to keep them for himself, or is he going to sell them? Is he going to?
Yep.
You don't know. Like, they did a very good job of like making this character be like, you have no idea what path he's going to choose. Is he going to shoot Laszlo? Is he going to shoot? Is he going to shoot somebody else, or is he not going to shoot at all and be like, I'm not going to be a part of this?
Yep. It's so interesting. Like starts out as this character that just is so like he's so neutral, right? You don't know much about him, but all you know is he sticks his neck out for no man, right?
Yeah.
And he's willing to take the papers, right?
Yeah.
But like he's not really sticking his neck out there. But like through his character arc, like he grows so much. And we get to see kind of like first we get to see what made him the way he is, right? We see him we see the facts that like he's fought in resistances before, but he's lost everyone, right? Like he's kind of lost his drive to do that anymore. And then we see that he's also lost his drive for like love and finding any happiness through what happened with him and Ilsa. And then that's what's like created this character that is so wants to stay out of everything, right? He just finally given up on that. He's living his best life in Casablanca, just running his little saloon, right?
Yeah. They even, and with even going through that, as we watch him through the movie, you know, we see him not help, what's his name, get away from the police.
Yep.
And then, and then you're like, oh, so he's actually, like you said, he won't stick his neck out for anybody. Right. But then you see him help the couple, and you're like, oh, so he does help people,
right? Like, so yeah, and that's like interesting is like, when we learn about his backstory, there's still a lot of ambiguity, right? We don't learn everything, and that's like who his character is, right? You learn bits and pieces, but he's never going to fully open up to you, right?
Yeah. And
so as we learn more and more about him, there's still all these little things we don't know. Who he would help, who he wouldn't help, all that. And we get to see him help the young couple, and we see like glimpses of him like his interaction with other people, where we can tell he's a good person, right? Like he's not
Yeah.
just a complete jerk, but he also at
Yeah,
the same
definitely.
time is very much like kind of only cares about himself,
Yeah,
right?
cares about himself as well.
But
His saloons.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then we see him interacting with Ilsa again, and like kind of that like spark coming back, right? And him being more and more willing, but like he's still only kind of willing for himself, right?
Oh.
And then, but as his character progresses, you're like, maybe he will make the right choice. Maybe he still is willing to put his neck out for somebody that's so important, right? And that's why I think Laszlo being that figure is so important, where it's not just anybody, but it's like this super super important character that he's willing to put his neck out for.
Yeah.
And then, we see it all culminate in the fact that he does choose that. But I want to go into. We talked a lot about how other characters interacted with him, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about like how important that was and how important it was that like not only they interacted with him, but we saw him interact with them, because we learned so much about his character in just the way he interacts with everybody, right?
Yeah.
Right away, we learn like how important he is in his introduction, right? All we see is his hand, right, moving chess pieces.
Yeah.
And you learn, like, what do you learn about him? Okay, he's kind of, a loner. He's playing by himself. And then we learn that, he's playing a game of chess, right? Like he must be a little bit of a strategist, right? He'll have a plan, right? He's that guy to have a plan. He's not a dog chasing cars or anything. And then he's handed something, right? He's handed a check that he has to Rick, right? Like he has a lot of, like you learn right away, he has a lot of authority, right?
Oh yeah. Like,
and we also have seen the outside already. We know it's Rick's, right? And now we find out he is Rick, right? So inside of this, he's like king, right? He has so much power inside this, aside this place, and then he like the way he commands that power.
Yeah, and not only does he have power, he also has the respect of everybody that works for him.
Of everybody that works for him, everybody that comes in, like everybody in Casablanca just like knows Rick, knows who he is, and they do such a good job of showing you that before you really even see his face, right? The way that people talked about him.
Oh yeah,
you already had an expectation. The way he's introduced. Now you finally see that, and then what do you see him? His first interaction is with Yvonne, right? And Yvonne's like, beautiful woman. Where were you last night? Like, right? He's like, don't remember that far. Like he's clearly like a man who doesn't care about things. Like he's not going to care about some. He's lived a life. He's lived a life. He's like right away. He's so, I don't know the word, but like separated. Like he has little care for others. And then we see him start to interact with others. We see him the way he interacts with Louis, just like he's always willing to seemingly put his hand out, show his cards, but since the start we learned, he's a strategist. Like he always has something, he's not just gonna give in.
Yeah, he's got the ace up his sleeve.
Exactly. And just it's so good the way he interacts with everybody, whether it's Louis, whether it's Strasser, whether it's Laszlo, Ilsa. Like his character is just fabulous.
Yeah, like if I was a woman.
If I was.
Moving on.
And I think that's kind of it for his character. There's so much more I could talk about. I just want to start quoting the movie now.
Yeah, same here. Like,
what's your occupation? I'm a drunkard. So talk about the movie as a whole. So it is first. I've said before, it is my favorite movie of all time. What I consider the greatest movie of all time. Where, without you don't have to rank all your movies or anything, but what would it be at the top?
It would be very close to the top.
100. Okay. Top,
very close.
Very close to the top.
Possibly, I want to say it would be close even in my top 5.
Very good. Very good. Very cool.
If I want to also really fast, I want to also give a rating for this movie.
Yep.
And it's a 10 out of 10.
Like, for me, it's one of the few movies I rank a 100 out of 100. Yeah. It is nearly perfect in every way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like we went through each aspect of the movie, just so well done. All works together so well. The characters push the plot pushes the characters, the soundtrack builds on all of it. The actors all portray their characters so well.
Oh yeah.
The visuals just build the story just like the characters do. As we learn this little visual detail, we learn this little story detail. As we learn this little, and they all just pile on top of each other and just in just fabulous storytelling fashion.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's the greatest movie ever made.